The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we are. We are now live on another Dorkening, and today we're doing an Indie Creator Spotlight. Have an awesome guest for you today. But with us, as always, we have Patrick.
Hello, everybody.
And special co-host tonight, we have Angel from That Strange Show.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing well. Patrick, would you like to introduce our awesome guest?
Oh, I totally would. This gentleman is, as I mentioned him off air, a part of my childhood, and was so cool that we got the chance to chat with him on the show, not only about the stuff that he's done back in the day, but also the stuff he's continuing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Monster Squad and Baby Frankenstein, Mr. Andre Gower. Andre, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
I hope so. I've even just the few minutes we chatted off air. Like, I think we've already established a nice rapport, so it's go really well.
Until Leo screws it all up, and then it's all
well,
around the basket.
It's gonna happen anyway because I messed up.
Leo is the glue that holds together the gears of this network.
He needs a lot.
Yeah, I got that. So let's we'll all help him out.
It just happens to be like 20-year-old Elmer's glue in the back of the closet. So
yeah, it's already kind of a little crusty. It doesn't have a lot of hold. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. It tastes a little. I'm not gonna go there.
It's a little weird. Oh,
yeah.
See, it's already beginning.
So when Clint from October Coast sent me the information about Baby Frankenstein, it looked awesome. But would you like to give us a little brief synopsis of Baby Frankenstein?
Yeah, a lot of people get misled a little bit maybe by the title. They're thinking it's something else, but I actually like that pleasant surprise. It's really kind of a short, kind of sweet neighborhood kids adventure story about new kid moves in the neighborhood. The across the street neighbor girl, they befriend each other, but he finds something in the attic of the place that he's just moved into. And it ends up being something we've never seen before. It's a new character. We call it Baby Frankenstein, but it's really this kind of 1950s era automaton / cobbled together robot humanoid something that we just don't know what it is, and he finds them and activates it, and then of course it creates a madcap kind of chase to either capture the creature or save the creature or get him back for his rightful home, because ironically, as the story entails, this prototype automaton has been lost for 60 or 70 years, and now it's activated and they find it. And it's a madcap kind of camping neighborhood romp where the boyfriend of the mother and his, silent sidekick are, madcapping around the neighborhood trying to capture this thing while the kids are trying to save it.
Nice. It was definitely definitely a nice surprise. It was totally something different than what I thought it was going to be, and it was definitely a fun romp. It was. I definitely enjoyed it. What about you guys? I know you just watched it, Angel, today.
Yeah, I thought, like you said, it was. I was expecting something else with the title, but it's definitely like you, gave a brief synopsis on. It's definitely like a young adult, coming of age type of deal story.
I definitely got a Goonies vibe from it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different vibe in it, and a lot of people have hit on like the kids' adventure in the neighborhood, the Goonies type, the Stand By Me type. There's definitely a little ET vibe, just with a couple kind of not only direct references, but, kind of homages, but, sort of that same thing where something's literally alien in the neighborhood, and we're trying to keep the adults or the authorities away from it. And then to me, there's also, because I'm a sci-fi fan. Like I kind of gravitate towards more science fiction, even more so than maybe even the horror genre. Don't hold that against me, horror fans, because horror is awesome. But the sci-fi element here of being some sort of invention that was created, 60 or 70 years ago with new technology. It's almost like, to me, it's almost like something that was invented in the lab, and then it got lost, and it should be in Tomorrowland at Disneyland, but it's in an attic stuck for 70 years and no one saw it. And that science fiction kind of vibe from that mid-century kind of era is something that it tugs at me a little bit. And we get just a little bit of that, and you have to kind of look for the kind of silent exposition in the story as we jump right into the story. But it's from this old technology company, and this prototype disappeared. And what I'm intrigued about after I finally seen this movie that I didn't ever see until about last week for the first time, and I'm glad it sees the light of the day and people get to enjoy it. But I'm interested almost, I love the story that, ended up being cobbled together here. But I also want to know more about, back in the day of when this thing was invented and what happened. And, there's a lot going on here. And I think people, that's what they're kind of resonating with when they actually watch it. So it's fun.
Yeah, I definitely, what were you going to say, Leo?
No, I was going to play the trailer, but why don't you have your comment and then I'll play the trailer.
Okay, yeah. The what I was gonna say is, speaking of the ET vibe, I definitely felt that the kid who played Lance definitely gave off a lot of a Henry Thomas type vibe to it.
Yeah.
I really got that even before the ghost costume. Right. And I was like, yep, now it's even more like now I really feel like he's Henry Thomas. But I thought that was great, because even one of the posters is very misleading for what this is. Like it makes it seem a lot scarier than it actually is, because it's not scary. Like there's some parts where you're like, man, I really hope this guy gets his comeuppance because he sucks. But I liked the mysterious aspect of your character and like some of the subtle things you did, like that subtle eyebrow raise you did a couple of times. Like I really like that. You're just like, oh yeah, like I'm in control. Like you might have a gun, but I know what's going on. Like
yeah. Well, I appreciate that, because what's interesting is this will make maybe less sense after a little backstory of kind of my involvement with the film, but it's everybody asks, how did I come to be, in this thing that's come out, who a lot of people have now started calling a cinematic experiment. And I kind of like that, because we'll get into the production of a little bit if you want to, but being in my position and kind of having, this backstory with the industry and in the horror world and with Monster Squad, you meet a lot of cool people. You meet a lot of filmmakers out there in the world, and you get asked to be in a lot of people's small projects. And, a lot of times it's something you just can't do. And a lot of times it's something that you shouldn't do. But when a friend asks you if you'd be interested in being involved in this project that they're working on, that this filmmaker has, and they've got a little bit of backing with some resources, but it's definitely going to be, a shoestring, low budge, guerrilla style, run and gun, neighborhood local movie. When your friend invites you into that type of world, you kind of have, a little bit more of an open eye to it. And I was wondering what the story was. They sent me the script. My buddy was telling about how they were developing it. And, lo and behold, my buddies TJ Rotel and Denise Pantoa were in Northeast Pennsylvania. They end up meeting this filmmaker, John Yonkandi, who has this story and a little bit of backing. And they're like, well, we're production people. Why don't we work together and, see if we can get this done? And then I guess my name came up in a conversation, and they called and asked if I would be interested in playing the heir apparent to the tech company, who's sort of this kind of, this CEO of like this kind of giant kind of modern company that back in the 50s created this creature that we're chasing. And that intrigued me, like I said, because it sort of had that, kind of old sci-fi feel. But as I was flying to Pennsylvania to do this movie, like everything changed. It went down, like the shooting days got cut in half down to 7 days. And, that means you're cutting pages and cutting scenes. So a lot of the backstory and a lot of the lingering we could have done in different scenes were all now completely gone. And we jump right into the story. And so I was wondering what we're going to do with this Lundquist character to make sense that even while he's out there or trying to, recapture his company's property, really, so it doesn't get out into the world. And there is a little mysteriousness with it. Like, who's this guy? Is this creature actually, is it a creature? What is it? Is it a robot? It's an automaton. Is it dangerous or is it not dangerous? What's the deal? And, I landed in town, and my buddy TJ, they picked me up and got me on a set. And the first scene that I had on camera was across the table from Patrick McCartney, who plays Glinovich, and Giannis Dariopoulos, who plays Van Sneed. And this guy, Patrick, I've never met before, but is just sort of this broad kind of just out there character guy. And he's just going off the rails and adding stuff and throwing in ad libs and just going so crazy. And I was like, well, I think he just decided what I have to do with Lundquist. So I had to almost counteract that by being as kind of calm, cool, and collected, and just kind of maybe mysterious. Like Angel said, I don't know, how is it going to come across? Because Patrick was such this wild kind of open, whirlwind. And I just kind of decided, like, let's just make it kind of low key and very mysterious and try to keep it really compacted. Because I could have gone, you could have gone the other way and been tried to out camp the camp. Yeah. And it wouldn't have worked. So, kudos to Patrick and Giannis for coming up with so far kind of my favorite wannabe criminal duo that I've seen in a long time, and they will never be successful criminal duo. And I kind of like that story too. I want to see more of them in like other madcap adventures of them trying to be a criminal enterprise.
Oh, totally. I got a. I was just gonna say I got a sort of like a evil Jay and Silent Bob, kind of thing from them.
No doubt.
Yeah, I got like a vibe from the two dudes from Power Rangers.
Bulk and Skull. I was about
to.
Yeah. Dude, I'm right with you.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but obviously something like that duo and the dynamic between two characters do that, like Jay and Silent Bob, or like the Power Rangers do. Something like that connects with people that's enjoyable. And I think those guys tapped into it because honestly, Patrick McCartney steals, just about every time he's on, steals the whole thing. And Giannis is there and never says a word. Yeah. But he has such a on-camera presence and this great look and these great reactions with that gorgeous mustache. And he takes me back to like a 1920s, 1930s silent movie character vibe. And I was like, that's even cooler to me. And so I was just watching those guys, and I try not to watch myself because I get really super critical sometimes. But I was like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have eaten 2 bagels that day. But, what's my hair doing or something? But, I was just trying to be kind of as cool and calm, as collected as possible, even when you have a gun pointed at your face.
Yeah.
Well, we do have the trailer for Baby Frankenstein, and if it's something you're definitely interested in checking out, we hope you do, because we absolutely loved it. Check the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. And we got the Amazon links right there, so you can get it. You can rent it or get the physical media. But here we go. Here's a trailer for Baby Frankenstein.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
It's all going to be good.
It's been activated, sir.
It's like a little baby Frankenstein.
He's quite dangerous.
Any idea how much National Geography would pay for a carcass like that?
You can't kill him.
What the heck are we gonna do?
We have to hide him.
So we're looking for Halloween costumes.
So good.
Oh no, that thing is not human.
We're gonna get you out of this.
Tell us where the monster is.
Don't shoot him! What are you doing?
Gotta tell you, my kids love Halloween too.
There we go. So at the end of this movie, I did notice what you said is this was a film experiment. Do you want to touch a little bit on the production part?
Well, I think that's almost half the other half of the story of that this movie actually gets a chance to see the light of day and, gets a release, and people are, getting a chance to see it, and we're getting a chance to talk about it. Because look, whatever your endeavor as a filmmaker or a writer or a production person trying to get something made, look, making a movie, like the nuts and bolts and actually do, is not rocket science. There's a formula, there's a thing, you have to put slot A into hole B, and you can make a movie. But it's getting something written, getting somebody interested in giving you some money, however much it is, putting a plan together, getting gear, getting people, getting a cast, shooting it, getting it in post, finishing it, getting it accepted into film festivals around the country, and then getting some sort of a response from it, and then ultimately getting a release for it. Not everybody gets that opportunity. I mean, they usually die along, some one of those mileposts along that path.
Yeah.
But especially with something like this, where it was such a small production footprint, it was such a small amount of resources behind to create that footprint, being the actual financing behind it. And my friends TJ and Denise, were the kind of driving force of how they were going to put all that together and work with John as two sides of a local coin there to how do you get this done? And it's friendships, it's good deals, it's getting the pizza place for free, it's getting the bowling alley for free, it's getting the bank office for free, and using your uncle's cabin, and just kind of running around the neighborhood and kind of guerrilla styling something, but with an actual production model behind it. And I think that's where some of the experience and kind of shoestring acumen that TJ and Denise had, who are also in the movie. They have great 2 cameo scenes. Denise plays the pizza waitress and has great reactions. And TJ is actually technically the guy that works for my character, and just rocks it out as being this uncomfortable kind of corporate, assistant. But they were also the 2 people that were behind putting all of the nuts and bolts together for, John to get his movie shot. And to show up and realize that they had to rewrite the script and chop a lot of days off the shooting schedule, and they were trying to accomplish this all in like 7 days. That's insane. And how do you do that? And, it's moving around a lot. It's cramming a bunch of pages into each day because you've got to milk each day for what you can. Yeah. And, when you're dealing with mostly local talent as your cast, some regional, like Patrick came from New York, I ended up coming from LA, so I was definitely the farthest, I think. But Ian and Cora is the 2 kid leads, and Eileen, the mom, and Mike, who happened to be one of the producers, but the goofy next door neighbor. The locality and the regional of the kind of experience that everybody brought to it, I think, kind of adds to the genuineness that we end up seeing in the story. Like, look, is it the most polished movie that's out? It's not a Marvel movie. We don't want it that polished. Those are fine for what they are, but this kind of has some authenticity and some genuineness in it and some grit, and it's definitely got some sci-fi feel. It's got some 90s indie movie feel, and it just ends up working for some reason, which is a great surprise and, a testament to all the work that everybody that worked on it did. Honestly, there's no doubt that I had the easiest or one of the easiest kind of things to contribute here, because I got flown in. I got to stay at my buddy's parents' house. His mom cooked me lunch and dinner, which was delicious. It's probably why I put on 10 pounds in those 7 days. And, I got driven to set, got to hang out with these people while I watched them just run and gun and make this shoot with a crew they brought down from the New York area. and small footprint, small gear. They're running 3 cameras on every shot, so it saves time on the master and your coverage as much as you can. That's really the only way you could do that in 7 days to get that much richness and that much coverage. I mean, I just wish John, we all had, a couple more days to add pages and make the movie fuller, because you never like cutting anything from a story or a script. But who knows? Maybe all those kind of things and questions people have after watching this movie all can be told in other stories. It's like, I want to know about before, and I want to know about this guy, and I want to know about these 2 madcap wannabe, criminals. So maybe it leads to more things that people get to see. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like I said, I think I had the easiest part of it, but I just wanted to try to show up and contribute as much as I can with what, we all had to work with, and just not get in the way, and, not overdo it or not mess up for everybody, because it was certainly a tight schedule. And all the other cast members had so many more pages of dialogue to do. And then we're not even talking about Rance Nix, who plays Baby Frankenstein. That's hours and hours of makeup every day to get in that get up. And then he's got to stay in it for, what ended up being 15, 16, 18-hour days, take it off, and then turn around and come back and do it for 5, 6, 7 days. That's insane. So, we got to get a lot of kudos to someone like Rance, who I had never known before. I didn't meet him out of makeup until I think one day, 3 days in, we were done. I finally saw what, the guy looked like. Right. And, but, like Ian and all these kids that weren't, don't have long acting resumes and a lot of production experience, but it all worked. I mean, it honestly kind of came together. And that kind of subtlety of that naivete or that non-polish is actually what makes the story kind of endearing, when you watch it, because it makes you feel like you're in the neighborhood. Nothing's put off and nothing's, overly polished or fake. And I think the genuineness of that is what kind of works.
Yeah, it definitely felt organic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and it kind of stems up. My brother's in the chat, and he asked, as a younger guy, it was right up his alley. And how old were you when the Monster Squad was made? And at that point, this kind of leads into my question as well, because at that point, you had already been a veteran. Like, you started your acting career at a very young age, according to your IMDb profile. So tell us a little bit about, being in this movie with like a bunch of kid actors, and, kind of being a veteran, a pro at this point. And, how did that translate and help you with, maybe give some guidance to the kids in Baby Frankenstein?
Yeah.
So the first part of the question, when we actually made the Monster Squad, I was 13, and it came out when I was 14. And then it disappeared for 19 years and no one cared. But yeah, going back I started really being in front of the camera when I was about 5 years old, which is a very young age to start a career. And, I was fortunate enough to actually work quite a bit as a kid, not only through, commercials and print work and TV spots and movies of the week and feature films, even, at a young age, but then to get up into, a teenage kind of age range where you're on, television shows and doing series that go 1 or 2 seasons, and then you get to do a ton of guest spots. I was very fortunate enough to be one of that, kind of 15 or 20% of the kids in the business during that era that did a majority of the work. And, even more so to be in the upper, 4 or 5% of that 20% group that ended up having some sort of celebrity or notoriety, whatever you want to call it, in the teen scene and the, kind of industry world. I don't know what it's like to not, be in film and television. I certainly had a balanced childhood and a balanced adolescence where I experienced regular world stuff that all the other kids were doing. But I just had this as an added value add experience. So, going into the future and growing up and being an adult and working with kids on set, and then something like Baby Frankenstein, luckily, like Ian and Cora, yeah, they're playing teenagers in the neighborhood, but they were a little bit older. But they're kind of, that adolescence comes through a little bit with them in their softness, that they came. So it wasn't really as hard as it usually is working with kids, because there wasn't a lot of time restrictions and work related type of issues that you can't have a kid on a set for that long. But I thought they did a great job being the kids that were the kind of engine for this story, because it's one of those stories that we all relate to at the time. The kids are the ones that find something. The adults either don't know or don't care, or, want to capture it, and the kids got to save it. So the adventure ensues, and the kids are the heroes. We all resonate to that, because we all want to be the heroes in the neighborhood. And seeing kind of, over the years and watching younger actors, I always love younger talent that really knocks it out of the park. It's not the easiest thing to do. I think kids, have to be comfortable in the environment. They also probably have to have some sort of natural ability to perform the ascribed, duties, but also be a professional, but also be a genuine kid at the same time. And that's a rare mix to find. But, I think every once in a while you can pick out some performances and some careers that, kind of nailed that right on the head. And I grew up with some of those, and now they're great adult actors too. And there's some great kid actors from my day that, stopped acting and went and pursued other endeavors. And, you can't, poo-poo that, or you can't, besmirch anybody's choices. Those are their decisions. When you grow up in the entertainment industry and you're in Hollywood and in LA and, working on big movies and TV shows, that's a whole other world. And it can be very interesting for kids. And I think everybody's got great stories, when they grow up and sit around the campfire.
That was a hell of an answer.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Appreciate it. Yeah, because I was going through your IMDb, because I try to, whenever we interview somebody, try to learn as much as I can about them. And I found out a bunch of stuff that I didn't know, like that you were in pretty much every major 80s show. Knight Rider, Team, St. Elsewhere, Highway to Heaven, The Twilight Zone. It's like, Jesus, like people, just associate you with the Monster Squad, and you're like, no. I've done like everything,
Mr. Belvedere.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you've got this, cult status, but like you've also got this extensive resume that nobody ever talks about, and I think that's a disservice to you.
Oh, well, look, I appreciate that. Obviously, a lot of the times the conversation is Monster Squad, and sometimes it's about, writing and kit. Which is, why not? My TV kind of trajectory, working on, I did work a lot. Was very fortunate enough to, do a ton of guest spots on a ton of cool shows. The other thing is my TV career is also filled with doing an actual series that only went for one season. So I did like 5 or 6 of those instead of doing one series that went 5 years that everybody knows as a hit show. Yeah. So that was also sort of kind of the running running kind of thread of a TV career, because I kept going to a lot of different opportunities and different series that actually only went one season and didn't get picked up. And had they been picked up, I would have done that show for 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Who knows? There's also a ton of stories of shows that you get, but you turn down, or shows that you get, but you can't do, that are giant hits. We all have our stories like that. And I have, 1 or 2 or 3 that are, kind of mind boggling and gut wrenching, but it's a sliding doors thing. It's, if you do this, that just means you end up not being able to do the things that you ended up doing. So, how do you choose what would have been better? You just can't.
You don't know.
But, I loved doing all the other shows that, I did. And like Monster Squad's obviously the kind of the largest footprint. And of course it has this giant resurgence and cult following that's been going on for decades now. And that's awesome. That's something that not everybody gets. But, talking about all the other stuff, it's, leading up to, shooting, auditioning and shooting Monster Squad. And then even before it came out, I was already going bang, bang, bang into other television projects. And, that's kind of a neat kind of trajectory that a lot of kids in the business, would hope for. And I was fortunate enough to, experience that. Right after Monster Squad, I went right into a brand new series when the Fox network first launched, and they had like 6 or 7 original shows. And I got offered 2 of them, and I took one, and it was starring George C. Scott and Conrad Bain and Madeline Kahn. And, it was about the president of the United States and his family. And I got to play George C. Scott's son, who, was in the White House. And it was produced by Ed Weinberger and all these huge television names, and Johnny Carson's production company made it. And that went 2 seasons because it could not go any further because the force majeures that happened between the network and people like George C. Scott and Ed Weinberg and all these things. Just that show was not going to last very long because there was just a lot of stuff going on, but it was a great experience. And and then I rolled right into other stuff after that. So I was fortunate enough to have peaks and valleys and breaks to enjoy other stuff, but I worked pretty constant. And that's a cool thing. And shortly after that show, Mr. President ended, I joined the cast of a show that had been on for 5 or 7 years at the time, The Hogan Family. And I joined that cast for a season. It was supposed to go longer, but ended up not happening. And so you just kind of you roll with the peaks and the valleys, and you take the ride. And other friends of yours that you grew up with have been on the same show and the same set for like 10 years, and they don't get a chance to do anything else. So, both are great options.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an interesting concept to kind of think of, because, again, it's are you looking for, it's like, okay, I'm only going to be doing this show and I'm going to do it for 10 years. And like, that's kind of,
yeah, you can miss other opportunities where you got to taste a little bit of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, oh, I could have been on this, but I was on this show and I missed this chance.
Right. And you can't look back with any sort of like, missing out or, boy, was this the wrong decision at the time, when sometimes it's not your decision. It's just how the chips fall. But we all have those stories, especially when it's an actual like if and or type thing. But, especially back in that time in the mid and late 80s, all of us were reading for everybody's shows, everybody's parts. We all in the same audition room. We all know each other, and your buddy gets that movie or that TV show and you don't. But you got to celebrate your buddy. Yeah. And, we all have things that we always audition for that we really wanted to get. And then there's a lot of things where you look back and you're like, you know what? I really want to do that movie, but that person that got the role that I was reading for was fantastic. So maybe I would have mucked it up a little bit, but and it wouldn't have had the same impact. But those are always fun to look back and swap those stories and say stuff, like you said, when a bunch of us get together sometimes and shoot the shit behind the iced teas.
Well, like you're saying, I'm sorry. Are you saying like you read for some stuff that you actually like wanted to get? What share some of those stories?
Oh boy. It goes from, like I said, when you're back in that day and there's a small group that's always, you're auditioning for just about everything. And let me see, if I had to take one to be your answer, I really liked the script for Dead Poets Society. And they were casting all over, out of New York and in LA. And I ended up getting down to kind of like the end from a bunch of the LA choices. And then they ended up going with all kind of Northeast kids that were relatively unknown. And Ethan Hawke had just done a couple things prior to that, because I had screen tested for the Ethan Hawke character. And I really liked that story and the thing, but I think I was too West Coast. And I think I was too, and that's why they went with all the kind of Northeast kids. And they all were fantastic in that movie. But that led to a thing where Peter Weir, the director, actually had, that happens with directors and actors a lot. They always want you to read for the next projects. And I got very close to doing the Mosquito Coast with, Harrison Ford and River Phoenix. And that would have been awesome. But something else casting, or I was doing something else and it just didn't work out. But, Angel, there's so many stories like that. But I would probably say, besides Dead Poets, the one movie that I wish I had actually done, but with the asterisk, because I think the person that did it was actually great in the character was Stand By Me.
Oh.
And I actually tested for the Teddy Duchamp role that Corey Feldman ended up doing and was very, very good in. I thought everybody was fantastic in that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
and even though I didn't get it, I went to the movie theater and teared up and cheered and cried like everybody else did.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm going to break in here for a quick second. So every show is brought to you by Deadly Grounds Coffee. We're going to make this quick because we want to get back to Andre here, but here we go. Here's a zombie talking about coffee.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds Coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds Coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly.
Use the front door!
Oh, they're so disgusting.
So like we say, now more than ever, we need to support indie artists and indie businesses as well. They're located right here in Norwalk, Connecticut, and just a local roaster, mom and pop, type of business where they roast their own beans and they do a little awesome oilness during the roasting process to give a nice hint of flavor. So definitely best tasting coffee you'll ever have.
Yeah, check them out.
Yeah. Actually, they became a sponsor because I was buying so much coffee from them. It's just
perfect relationship. Now, it was on. I didn't hear it, but I'm going to go watch that commercial another time. Please tell me the outside ones are going beans.
Oh,
no, we should though.
That's the next ad. Okay, I just wrote their next ad for them, so it's perfect.
Tom, take notes.
Yeah, right. Well, I just wanted to touch on one thing real quick. Like what you were saying, the regret of roles, because it happens to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a convention a couple of years ago, and Tim Curry was talking about that exact same thing, and he said the one role he wished he could have gotten was Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. He wanted that role so badly, but then you look at it, and it's like, I love Tim Curry, but could he have done what Anthony Hopkins did?
Imagine that movie with Tim Curry, though. It would have been different. It would have been different, but I think it would have been good.
Yeah,
it still would have been great.
Yeah,
because he's Tim Curry. It would just been different, like Angel said, right? But every actor has those stories, and especially kid actors, because there's only so many roles back in the day. There really wasn't that many roles for kids, and usually you were playing someone's offspring that was actually the show or the movie was about, and you were kind of like a side character. It wasn't until really good movies like Stand By Me or The Explorers or Goonies and Monster Squad really made the kids kind of the forefront and the main characters and the heroes, and so that's always fun. And you grow up in the industry, and whether you're on the set, if you're auditioning, that means you're not currently in production on something. And you go to school or it's summertime and you jump in the car and you got 3, 4, 5, 6 auditions a day, 5 days a week. And it's just sort of a grind, and you're jumping in audition rooms and casting offices and going to screen tests and, knocking out these auditions left and right. And, by the time you rack up a few years of doing that, you've read for just about everything that came down the pipe. And some you remember and some you don't, and some you lament and some you celebrate because your friend, your pal really did a really good job, in that role. And, there's a ton of things that everybody wanted to do. Everybody in the world read for Monster Squad. All the same people that you think of that should have or could have at that time, they all auditioned for that movie. And I think we're fortunate enough that the 4 or 5 of us that got cast in it, got cast and made that year for us. So it was fun.
So my question is kind of a two-parter. One, on what set were you treated the best? Did you get the best trailer, and with the Nintendo system and stuff like that as a kid? And 2, did you ever pay off Jonathan Brandis's driver to have him drive to the wrong place so that you could get a role instead, or that somebody else could do something instead of seeing Jonathan Brandis in everything?
No, I never did. Now that I think of it, maybe I should have. Damn it. No, but the first part of it, the best taken care of or being treated as well. I think it's just more about the experience. It's not about being treated a certain way, because everybody should be and usually is treated as a cast member. And you're usually kind of, well respected on a set or on a stage or on a lot or something. So that's always fun. I think the most fun or kind of, I really liked the experience of being on that TV show, Mr. President, for a number of reasons, because we were on stage. We ended up on stage 19 at Paramount, which was the Happy Day stage. And, you're working with George C. Scott and Madeline Kahn, and you're just the kid on the show. I mean, there's an older sister, but we're both teenagers. And you're listening to these great stories with George C. Scott and Conrad Bain and Madeline Kahn and Eugene Roach and all these amazing people that you recognize, for decades and decades of work. But the production of that was pretty cool. And I was on that show for 2 seasons, and I had a great studio teacher that, was kind of, my thing for, a year and a half or so, or 2 years, and learned a bunch. We got to ride around the lot on our bikes, and I played basketball at lunch with Woody Harrelson and Gary David Goldberg, on the set. We'd have pickup games, because I was a basketball player. And, you used to have pickup games with Woody Harrelson and all these executives. And, it's like the guy that owns the most successful sitcom on TV is playing basketball with the kid from this other show that no one knows. And you're playing basketball with a bunch of grips and some electricians and some set builders. And it just ends up being a cool lunchtime. So when you have opportunities like that, it's fun. And usually when you're a kid, there's a lot of restrictions. You can only be on set for so many hours. You can only be in front of the camera for so many hours. You got to go to school every day. So it's not really a hangout, and you don't get the lavish in this lifestyle. Like, it's not like, gold-plated jacuzzis and grapes, by PAs and, limos and things like that. It's really sort of a grind, and you're a professional. You're showing up and having a job to do, and you have a responsibility just as much as, the gaffer or the cameraman or the sound guy or the boom operator or the stage manager. And, especially as a kid, no one really gives a lot of leeway for kids to fart around and mess off. And so you really kind of understand that. So you become a professional very quickly if you know what you're doing. And that's what kind of lends, I think, to more work and, more accolades and more jobs. But it certainly is a unique experience. And that's probably the longer term, kind of better experience, just because you got established and had my classroom all to myself with my studio teacher. And we did some cool stuff during, holidays and Halloween. And we got to explore the Paramount lot and go into the archives and go see all these old sets and got to walk on the stages. And, so it's just sort of the adventure that you make within the parameters that you can kind of operate in. So that was kind of fun. One of the great things about being on the Paramount lot at that time, Cheers was going on. That's why I get to play basketball with Woody Harrelson. But another show that, it kind of made a hit for itself for a while, but, no one knew about it. And, a buddy of mine that I'd known for a little bit named Will Wheaton was shooting a show called Star Trek, The Next Generation. And I used to, ride my bike to the other side of the lot, and we would hang out for a little bit. And I got to meet Patrick Stewart in the makeup trailer. The show hadn't even ever aired before. And I was like, whoa, a new Star Trek show is coming out. So I went on the set. I stood on the bridge, of that enterprise. And that was pretty bitching because I'm, like I said, I'm a sci-fi kid. Star Trek, love it. TNG, that's my show. And, I got to be there, before anybody saw it. And you get visits, and being on a studio lot like Paramount and getting to experience something like that is actually pretty cool. Shooting on location and going around to different places is also neat. But I like, kind of being around that old studio vibe for a while.
That's insane.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that
that is
kind
awesome.
of ties into what I was just going to say. Like, what kind of memorabilia or like autographs or like pictures do you have with folks that or was that like kind of discouraged?
It's not, because you get so many, if you are lucky enough to be working, or you're lucky enough to have some sort of, celebrity of whatever level at that time, whether you're a kid or an adult. And, I happen to be kind of in that teen celebrity magazine type of scene. So everywhere you go, someone's taking a photo. and you're just taking photos with your pals. You know, these are just like these are your chums. And you know, these are the chums that are in the industry life. And then, you know, have chums that are your neighborhood friends and your school friends. But, you know, memorabilia, I wasn't a big collector of stuff, which is why I didn't know that you know, have what is going to be an expensive comic book and you actually take it out and read it and fuck up the edges. And then I think the ultimate story to your answer is because I was working and I was in the time, I was able to go to the Academy screening of a movie that was very big. And this was about 3 or 4 months before it came out. And it happened to be a movie called Revenge of the Jedi. So I went to the Academy screening, and if you were a kid, you actually got to go. You got a swag bag like of memorabilia and a toy. And I was like, oh, great. I'm just seeing the next Star Wars movie. I'm cool because I'm in the business and I'm, you know, at the DJ theater or whatever and seeing, you know, this movie. And I thought it was going to be awesome because I had heard about it and read about it. And then the Ewoks came and killed it. But that's a whole other story. But, you know, I took this bag of stuff home and I didn't know. And I didn't know they were going to change the title of the movie, but two things that were, and there was like a T-shirt and a poster, and those got long gone way before. But there was a toy in a box, and it was a ship that doesn't exist in any of the movies. And on the box it says "Revenge of the Jedi." And as you know, the 10-year-old or whatever it was at the time, I went home, opened the box, and played with the ship. Because I thought, you know, it was a thing. I didn't know I just ruined like $1 million piece of, non-existing, toy merchandise and threw the box away and everything. But I do have a button, like a 3-inch kind of lapel button that does say "Revenge of the Jedi" on it. So I have that. Nice. But I have the memories of playing with the action figures and the ships and stuff that I got. Let's say "Revenge of the Jedi," but kept none of it.
Does it hurt?
It's all up here.
Oh, it hurts me now. I can't believe that, but
because it's hurting me. I do have a Revenge of the Jedi poster.
Hurting you, hurting all of us.
Like like it's a ship that doesn't exist. Oh, I lost it in 5 minutes. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I had it for years, but I didn't know the box was doing anything.
Yeah, like he said, he had no idea they were gonna. You know, those are one of those things that, like, had you known, you know, you might have, you know, or someone older than you might have been like, you know what, I'm gonna move this over here.
I need a minute.
Ship that doesn't exist yet, as we know with Mandalorian. You know, they just made the transport toy into an actual vehicle.
So yeah. And I think it was funny. There may have even been like a small plush Ewok or something that I may have conveniently left in that theater. But all my friends know me. I hate that. The Ewoks were. I wanted to see the Wookiee Rebellion. I wanted to see that. Damn it, Lucas! To sell toys, you bastard. Anyway, to answer, that's probably one of those things. But I have a lot of great photos that are with me and friends. At events or, you know, parties that I just love seeing. Some of these people aren't around anymore. You know, literally, you know, they've died. But you know, there's a couple, because what's great about the teen celebrity kind of world is if you're at a party or a premiere or a festival type event and there's a group photo and there's, you know, paparazzi and photographers around, you know, you're always getting in group photos. And one of my favorite, there's 2 favorite photos that pop out, and there's like 5 or 7 of us in a group. I think it's at the Hotel Roosevelt, maybe one of them. I don't even know what the event is, but it's, you know, the caption is "Married with Children's David Faustino," and Knots Landing's Brian Green, and Mr. President's Andre Gower, and Punky Brewster Soleil Moonfry, and newcomer Heather Graham. And, you know, because if you don't have a bunch of credits to put in the caption, but you're new and you're in the photo, you got to get credited. And then if you look back, there's probably like a bunch of our birthday parties and a bunch of these events there's kind of like this, this fairly good looking, goofy blonde kid with floppy hair and this lopsided smile that's always standing in the back of everybody because he's about 2 years older than everybody. And he's always in these photos. And you're like, who is that? And you're like, oh shit, it's Brad Pitt. So you're like, oh, that's funny. Well, he was at my birthday party. I don't remember. And so
sheets. Who brings sheets?
It's great things like that to look back and go, interesting. Oh, Angelina Jolie was there too. How weird. But these people become these icons and these forces later on, and they were around, but they weren't the names they were back then. So there's sort of a trade. And I just think that's funny because I actually I did a pilot. I don't even think it's on IMDb or most resumes, but there was a pilot for a kind of a superhero show that was called The Eagle of Encino. And it was about this guy, and I can't remember what he was like. I think it was an ex-cop or a writer or something. And he gets paralyzed, but he builds a suit that can make him move and he can fly in a ship. And it sort of ended up being like a Mantis type thing. But we shoot the pilot and I'm the kid in it. And Summer Phoenix was the little sister. And River was still around at the time, but Summer and I were the brother and sister in this. And there's an older sister that had this boyfriend, and the boyfriend had a scene, and he was nervous. And my mom was like running lines with him, and it was like Brad Pitt's first thing he ever did. So you're like, okay, we were there. It's good. Good on you, Brad. You did pretty good for yourself. So, more power to you. And I love Brad Pitt. I think he's great in most everything that he does. But to go back and see old photos, like you were asking, to see all these awesome people, you're like, oh, I forgot he was at my birthday party.
Yeah, I was looking up earlier today, and you got one here with Drew Barrymore, Corey Haim, and a bunch of other people. But yeah, that's like looking back into that. That's like a little.
Those are interesting little literal snapshots into almost a time warp. But when you put it in the context of the time, it makes it even more interesting. And I think your Drew Barrymore photo. Are we older or are we really young? I don't know which one you're.
You're younger. You're probably like 15, 16 at the most.
Okay, that's actually the older one.
Yeah.
There's another one of me and Drew. That's a photo that's out there when there used to be a thing called the Youth and Film Awards, which is sort of like the award show for kids in the business, which I thought was a great thing to have. To give these kids who are professionals from the age of 5 and earlier, some sort of recognition. And I was a presenter. And I presented the award to Best Supporting Actress in a Movie or something, and it was Drew Barrymore for E.T. And she's like 6 years old, and has this, and it's a great picture of me and her on stage, and I'm in a little awfully rented tuxedo and ugly shoes, and she's up there kind of crying about winning an award, and it's a lovely photo. And then for years later I think we're at the same event, but we're teenagers and kind of almost recreate that same photo of being at an award show together. And she grows up to be Drew Barrymore. Obviously her family has a legacy. It's like super Hollywood. It doesn't get any more Hollywood than the Barrymores, but photos like you mentioned, Haim and all those, we're all around, we're all at the same places and all each other's houses and birthdays. And, sometimes it's for an event and you got to be on and you're taking these photos and you're kind of out there for the brand. And then other times you're just at your friend's house in the pool and, eating birthday cake and, opening presents at, whoever's house happens to be, the Saturday, meetup spot. And those are great memories too. And sometimes when you run into people you haven't seen in a while, you get to relive those memories.
All right. So now I got to know, was there ever somebody that you guys all were just like, oh my God, Charlie Sheen is here again? Oh my, who invited Charlie Sheen? Or like somebody like that was like, oh my God, this Leo DiCaprio kid, he just follows us everywhere. Why is he here? Was there ever anybody like that?
It was you. And fortunately enough, Sheen was part of that teen group that was the one like class ahead of you, so you didn't really cross paths a lot, although you did occasionally. Not really. I don't think there was anybody that you're like, oh god, now we got to leave because he's here or she's there. I don't think that ever happened. But you mentioned like DiCaprio happens to be a couple years young, and it's weird when you're in little age ranges of teen years, right? Because when you're 13, 14, you're not hanging out with the 16 and 17-year-olds usually. And when you're 16 and 17, you're not hanging out with the 11 or 12-year-olds. I mean, I hope not. But but everything crosses over. And if you grew up and you know each other or you work together, so there's always these great kind of teen scene rat pack group things like happen every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I certainly thought ours was great because it was about the epitome of 80s kind of teendom. But I thought the one before us, which was sort of like the Breakfast Club era, and my favorite kids adventure movie of all time is Red Dawn. And those cats that were in there, that's what I thought was the cool teens. I thought ours was like super corny and way too much hair product and terrible clothing. But to be around and actually know some of those older groups, when you're younger, and then when you get to see each other as an adult, you'd be like, hey, you remember that time at the arcade and like we were hanging out and C. Thomas Howell's like, no. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But,
I do.
You instantly go back into being, a kid at the time where the cooler teenager who was like, 14 and wearing like, Van slip-ons and some, corduroy shorts, and you just have like your dorky shit on. It was fun. But I love that era. I mean, I don't think there was any other time like it. I think the 90s came, you mentioned DiCaprio. He's a little bit younger than I am, but he was around, but we weren't pals because he was a little bit younger. And, he ended up obviously, he did good for himself too.
Yeah. He did a couple things. I don't know.
And then you mentioned, a great face and kind of a great energy, unfortunately, who's not Jonathan Brandeis. You mentioned Jonathan Brandeis, who honestly was, in everything that you turn around, because he ended up just kind of being, this face that popped and was in a lot of stuff. And there was something interesting that he was quoted as saying that, like he was like, good friends with myself and like, his favorite time was hanging. I was like, and I remember the kid, like he was a little younger and we'd hang out, and then he ended up dying. And I was like, wait a minute, why is he not, why are some other people still here? But, someone like Jonathan Brandeis, who should be working forever with that great face and, that look. And, he had good, floppy early 90s hair also. Why isn't he here? And those are always kind of, but then you got to feel kind of fortunate that you ended up sticking around and, not getting hit by a bus or dropping off of the face of the earth. And, it's a weird dynamic. It's a big world and it's, it's dangerous sometimes. And, you can't look back at the things you didn't do. You got to look back at the things that you did and the cool experiences, because you never know when they're going to not happen anymore. Case in point, like, Brent Chalem from Monster Squad, who played Horace, who was arguably everybody's favorite character that they all related to or wanted, that's the best character arc they all root from. Look, he's got the best lines in the movie, including the ultimate line, which is what we named the documentary, Wolfman's Got Nards. So he ends up dying when he's 22. He just graduated college and was getting ready to go to law school.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just didn't know the events surrounding his, his early death. And that's something that we actually looked into and met with friends and family of his and got that story on camera of what actually happened to Brent. And where the tragedy of that is that he never knew that there was a Monster Squad resurgence. And then it goes the other way on the conduit, because the fans are missing out on getting to see their favorite character because he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
And, we always sit around and be like, that's really kind of as much as we're celebrating this resurgence, that's a giant tragedy and a big hole for Brent himself to not understand how much, love was actually given to him and a character in a movie that failed in the box office, 20, 30, 32 years later, and the fans can't connect with someone that they've always admired or celebrated. So that kind of sucks. But, not to put a dampen on it, but, sort of that whole, wider picture of, when you start getting into years and getting older, but man, 22. Brandis died young. Brent died young. Haim died older, but he was still young.
Yeah.
And that's a totally unfortunate situation.
We had a question offline over in the Dreadit community from a J Tambo 86. He was asking, what was it like working with Tom Noonan? He heard he stayed in character.
It's a great question. We get it a lot. So every time someone asks me what was it like working with Tom Noonan, here's my answer. I have no idea. I didn't work with Tom Noonan. I worked with Frankenstein's monster because Tom is such a trained and deeply method actor, as with Duncan Regeer, who played Dracula. We never saw them not only out of makeup, but we never saw them out of character at any time. And the day and the positioning of where everybody was suited just for that. So it's not like we got to hang out with Tom and Duncan and eating, lunch and sharing a taco plate and, a soda. We never saw them out of character and never saw them out of costume and full makeup. Some of the other guys that were in the suits and like Michael McKay, who played Mummy, yes, we did. But those guys stayed in character to keep the authenticity and the relationships like that. So, to answer your question is I went about a month after a month of filming of not being able to see this man. I had to go to my local video store and I rented Manhunter just to see what this guy looked like in real life. And then I always regretted renting Manhunter because he scared the shit out of me in that movie.
He was good in that, though.
He was awesome in Manhunter.
Oh, I mean, what people ask me who some of the creepiest characters of all time, and Francis Dollarhide in that movie is absolutely at the top of that list. Yeah. And I happen to know that guy, but years later, and later on, you meet the actor and you meet the human being, and but he definitely took that down the path, and refused to break character, and that's like 2.5, 3 hours of makeup every day to get into that, and then it's 2 hours to take it off, and there's a story that. They went late at night shooting one time. It was almost dawn or something. And, Noonan was like, I'm not spending 2 hours taking this off. I'm just going home. And so he went home in his costume and in makeup. And I was like, how does that work? And, boy, I wish there was cop dash cam footage of him running a red light or something and him getting pulled over, because that would have been very, very interesting. Because I guarantee you he would have not said, "Oh, hello, is there a problem, officer?" He would have gone,
bogus.
And because that's just him. But look, I've seen him many times over the years at appearances and conventions, and he's a super nice guy. He still continues to act and do creepy roles. But no, I never worked with Tom Noonan. I worked with Frankenstein's monster, but I met Tom Noonan later. So there's the answer to that question.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
So I know we're running close to the time. You mentioned conventions, and I also want to remind everybody we're talking about Baby Frankenstein, and there's a bunch of information in the show notes down below or up above, and we'll probably play the trailer one last time before we wrap things up. But where was I going with that? I was going to say conventions. I know this year is a wash with everything with conventions. Hopefully by the time there's like a vaccine and everything, and we start going back to conventions. Was there anything big planned? Any or have you done recently any like get-togethers at conventions? Any reunions?
Well, we spent. Our last kind of big convention run was 2 cycles ago when it was the 30th anniversary of Monster Squad. And what was crazy about that, because that was a whirlwind year anyway, because we were in production on the documentary. And, we tacked on so many big events and so many conventions. And there was even a 17-city Alamo Draft House, 30th anniversary tour that we, took the production crew with me and got to document all of that stuff. And that's a big part of the documentary, is being on the road and being out at these events with these fans. And that's where a lot of our great stuff that, you just can't plan for happens. This year, it was kind of, not a big year for actual events, but there was plenty on the calendar. There was probably a half a dozen, and then pandemic hits and everything just cancels. So I even if it's a film festival unrelated to something you're producing or acting in, or an appearance at a convention, we all miss going to those things because those are kind of on your calendar sometimes 3, 4, 6, 7 months in advance. And boy, to have something like this come through and just cancel all of that in like a week, that's insane. And then everybody's jumping to kind of cybercons and online and streaming type things. Hopefully they can come back and bounce back as businesses and companies. And I think everybody's going to really relish, that time when the world starts turning again and we can go and hang out at these festivals and conventions and, appearances that everybody enjoys going to. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, there was probably 5 or 6 big things that we had on the calendar that, just got canceled. Obviously, I was in the middle of distribution talks and timing windows for the release of the documentary when COVID hit, and then some things changed and we jumped into another type of release distribution deal. So hopefully, I don't have the liberty to say specifics when, where, and with who, but very soon, please follow me on my socials or at the Squad Doc, and there'll be announcements for that. But that put a wrinkle in that kind of release plan too, of taking this back on the road and going to theaters and going to conventions and letting people kind of see the doc, because the doc is really important to see with a group of people in a theater, because that's how we made it. Because it's not about the Monster Squad and it's not about us as a cast. It's about the relationship that a movie has with its fans and a relationship that the fans have with a movie. And we shot it to give you that feel of what it was like for that first time that you sat in that theater and the lights go down and that projector light, beams out and, it starts showing the movie that changes your life, whether it's Monster Squad or something else. And you still get those kind of feels, but when you're sitting in a darkened room in a theater with of like-minded folks, it really has an impact. So hopefully we can get back into that, because that's where movies are really supposed to be watched, in that kind of communal kind of atmosphere. But look, technology and streaming and VOD is, whether it's TVOD or SVOD or PVOD or AVOD, doesn't matter. We have access to so much more great stuff, and stuff that we probably wouldn't have access to in a regular world, like Baby Frankenstein. I think it's a great timing for something like that, for people to get to see someone's project that may or may not have been able to see the light of day, but because of technology and because of timing, it works out perfectly, and everybody gets to enjoy kind of a fun little movie experience, whether it's watching their big blockbuster, Avengers movie, or watching something like Monster Squad, or watching something like Wolfman's Got Nards, or watching something like Baby Frankenstein. You have that ability to. So I think that's something that everybody's kind of attaching to and latching on really hard right now. But I think we all want to get to that point where we can go outside and go in a room and sit down and enjoy that, kind of darkened theater experience with everybody. And hopefully theaters will be around, to service that want that we do. The one thing that I love about shutting down is that people got creative and innovative. We're like, you're not going to stop me from seeing movies. So I'm just going to go stream the shit out of stuff and watch it all. I'm going to absorb it because they have the time. But the resurgence of the drive-in,
yes,
is my favorite thing that's happened. And I hope that it actually continues, because people will enjoy that experience again, because we got away from it for a long time. And people don't understand actually what that drive-in movie theater experience was, a completely different social experiment, starting in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s that, became really a thing. It's really a big part of Americana and the movie-going experience. And I've always loved the drive-in. I just thought it was fascinating to me. And whenever you saw it represented in other movies, whether it's a 50s movie or something like Grease and hearkening back to that time, or, I remember going to the drive-in with my dad and, and seeing, certain movies that, he wanted to go see, and we jump in the car and go. They weren't really around when we were teenagers and we had cars, because they were sort of dying off by that time, which was just sad. But I have a special place in my heart for the drive-in, and I'm glad it's kind of coming back out of necessity and out of innovation, So go and support those films. And when they're showing retro screenings, or if your local town is firing up that old beat up farmland drive-in movie theater, go buy a ticket, stay in your car, mask up, watch a movie, and support whatever they're doing, because I hope it gets to continue as a thing. And that'd be kind of bitching if it would, because I love the drive-in movie. I wrote my senior paper in college on the drive-in theater, so I've always liked it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Drive-ins are great.
Legit.
I saw Monster Squad in the drive-in. That's
Yes.
yeah, totally. And we're lucky enough we have a handful of drive-ins around here that I have one about 45 minutes away that whenever you go, it's always a huge line to get in, and it is just an awesome community experience. So yeah, I agree with you. I hope they just continue to grow in popularity, new ones pop up. So actually, this person says we opened a brand new drive-in down here in the Cape. It's been fun.
Awesome.
There was a question earlier. Facebook user, I don't know why it's not showing their name.
They got to sign in.
They do. Pardon me. Angel, do you want to take this question?
Sure. It says, I'm wondering if there were any feelings, negative or positive, about the more adult language being said by all the little kids in Monster Squad, either by the actors and or their parents.
The short answer is no. The longer answer about the actual those are the pages, those are the page of dialogue on the script that, your job is to go in and read. And, obviously if there's anything that makes you uncomfortable, you can always have that conversation. I don't think we ever had that in Monster Squad. I mean, we also have, one of the most badass characters on film who ends up being the ultimate hero is our 5-year-old little girl, Phoebe, saying, "Don't be chicken shit," which is one of the best lines in the movie. But, there is adult language. There's probably some phrasing and some ribbing and some joking with your pals that's not looked on too lightly today and not accepted as it was back then. But the answer to that is that's what creates the hardened authenticity of something like Monster Squad, and that's how 13 and 14-year-old boys hung out with each other back in the day. They used derogatory terms and curse words and hid stuff from their parents, and were trying to be adults and trying to be bigger than they are, and then it just makes for some fun laughs on camera when the 5-year-old pulls out a chicken shit. So we've had those conversations. We understand the history, we understand the legacy of some of the wording and some of the dialogue, but it's all understood that that's how it went down, and that's how kids talked to each other at the time, and that's how they interacted with each other. I think there's also some actual commentary inside of the movie itself of everything like that, when we have the opposite of it with the bullies, like EJ and Derek, where it's not okay for them to be mean. But when your group of friends is doing it, they're not being mean, they're not being malicious with each other. They're basically, that's the acceptance of each other in the group, and you get to interact with each other that way. But it's not good when someone from outside your group is being malicious and being hurtful. And that's sort of where the whole dynamic of Horace, his name in the script is Fat Kid, and we call him Fat Kid. The only person that doesn't is Rudy. And he ends up being his buddy and his savior that ends up being that, kind of stand up for my buddy Horace kind of role. And so I think what that does is you can't have that hero moment and that friendship bonding that's going to last for a lifetime between these two characters. You don't get that if you don't have what precedes it. And so I think, everybody understands and kind of realizes that, this begets that. And, we actually comment. We don't just do it for, the sake of doing it just to get some yucks or laughs, except for maybe Phoebe's chicken shit line. But, Phoebe's always trying to be older and, trying to be a part of the group, and, no one lets her. And then lo and behold, I mean, talk about something that's interesting is in 1986, when we made this movie, the hero of the movie is the 5-year-old little girl. Mm-hmm. She's the one that steps up, is not afraid of anything, befriends the monster that, ends up helping to save the day. and, calls everybody out for them being chicken shit, literally. But then she's the one that has the ability to, read the spell and save the world. Now there's the conversation of why did it have to be the little girl who's, the version that has to read the spell? But that, we're going through thousands of years of literature and, kind of religious iconography of, innocence and purity, which is the only thing that can counteract, dark forces of evil. I don't know if, Sean should have been, technically I should have been able to read the spell and open up a hole in limbo, but, that's not how it worked out, leading up to the time. I think if you were remaking a story, it may have a great conversation of, well, who's going to read the spell? Does it really matter?
Everybody was doing their own badass stuff. Like she had to do something badass too.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, she's absolutely badass. And, I think it's not a knock on, now it's a knock on that Patrick's older sister can't save the world because she's actually had sex. It's like, you're not worthy of saving the world. So, but yeah, Steve doesn't count. And, I think everybody's had, a Steve, but figuratively. And, but I think nowadays, you can bring stuff like that out. You don't have to, lambast it. You don't have to cancel it. You don't have to, besmirch it or degrade it, but you can bring it into a current day conversation and go further with it and still have fun. But yeah, there is language. We're all young kids. But I think if you remember back to you being 13, everybody used bad words, when the parents weren't around.
Yeah. Made you feel grown up.
It does. It makes you feel grown. And that's all what that is about finding your place in the world. And especially when you've got a story of, 4 or 5 misfits that are only friends with each other because they like the same stuff, whether it's comic books or monster movies or monster magazines or creature features. Everybody found their niche and they found their buddies and their friends, whether they were, boys or girls, and, they got to draw on their comic books and they got to draw art and they got to read nerdy stuff and, geek out about, Star Wars stuff and Star Trek things. And, Monster Squad's really a story about a group of misfits that come together and find their group. And that's why they're pals. And they literally save the world together because they've got each other's backs. And I think that's where the message in the story goes in with those characters. And I think we've seen that influence a lot of stuff ever since then. Whether it's campy or corny or kid-like, sure, it's fun, but it's really, it was authentic back, in that time. And I think it still is.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I was just thinking, and because I was thinking back to some of these scenes and things, and I didn't even it didn't dawn on me. I just realized that I have a book coming out later this year, and some of the I have in it
awesome
is, horror haikus, and one of them is called "Lock Me Up," about a werewolf, and it's because of that scene in the police station.
Lock me up.
Where he takes the gun and he's firing into the air, and he's just like, "Lock me up!" Like that. That's how much of an influence that this has had on me. Is even if you asked 50 people what's the most memorable line, that's probably not one of them. I mean, "Hey asshole, you looked" is probably up there though. That was always the one that got us as kids. That was always the best. So
I mean, who's going to actually say you looked as like a knuck, 2 for flinching type thing with, a freaking werewolf, right? It's genius. It's clever.
Oh, it was great. It was perfectly delivered.
But no, the Lock Me Up thing I love because that's a great scene. What a powerful, that's a powerful, deadly scene, kind of rocked it out of the park by John Grease, who is probably one of the best character actors out there. All the way from, Laszlo, the guy living in the walls and Real Genius, all the way through Desperate Man and Monster Squad to, Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Yep.
Clear across some mountains.
Yeah, that's what you get when you have great actors and faces and names that can, say "Lock Me Up" and make you remember it. But I like a "Lock Me Up" haiku. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I appreciate that. I have a lot of influences, like the Monster Squad and the Thriller video were like the two things that, we gravitated towards and we watched over and over and over and over, like the Making of Thriller, like documentary.
Oh yeah,
it was that and Monster Squad every weekend.
I mean, that Thriller thing was a whole thing in of itself. Not just the video, which was amazing at the time, still pretty bitchin', but the making of and the backstory, and they made the little short film in between. And he turned it. I mean, what a production. And certainly wasn't a kind of graphic type of thing at the time that just influenced millions and millions of people.
Yeah,
and that's the impact that like special effects or creatures or monsters or scares or jump scares and choreography can do to kids.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I know we're running a bit late. I apologize for that. So Andre, would you like?
Are you apologizing to me or to the listeners?
I apologize to everybody.
He's apologizing.
Don't apologize to me. I'm having fun. Keep firing away.
Well, thank you. So would you like to introduce the trailer again for Baby Frankenstein?
Sure. Those of you who are getting a second viewing or the first one, here is the. Apparently, there's an intruder in the house. Here is the trailer for Baby Frankenstein.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
It's all gonna be good.
It's been activated, sir.
It's like a little baby Frankenstein.
He's quite dangerous. Do you have any idea how much National Geographic would pay for a carcass like that?
You can't kill him.
What the heck are we gonna do?
We have to hide him.
So we're looking for Halloween costumes.
So good.
Oh no, that thing is not human.
We're gonna get you out of this.
Tell us where the monster is.
Don't shoot him! What are you doing?
Gotta tell you, my kids love Halloween too.
Awesome. Such a good movie. And check the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to. And you can rent it or buy it on VOD or physical media. And we all love physical media.
Physical media is key.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually, you buy the physical media and then you put it on your internal video server. And then
The doodad.
That was a project I had recently. I digitized my entire movie collection so that I can just stream it to any TV in the house. Don't gotta put a disc in.
That, and I'm guessing you don't have a small collection.
Not not as big as these guys. It's about 900 movies. So
that's a lot. And if you have more than 900, that's a boatload. So kudos to you guys.
That is a buttload.
Yeah, totally. You guys have any questions? Any other questions for our awesome guest?
I do just want to quickly point out that the Facebook user who has been putting a ton of comments on the side is my good friend Colleen from Geektopia. She's awesome. She was talking about her young kids, and she watches a lot of this type of stuff with her kids. So I just wanted to make sure folks know who it was. She's an absolutely delightful human.
Hello.
Well, tell her.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, she's commenting on the Facebook post.
She's got to sign in to the doodad.
Everything.
We'll be able to see it. We'll be able to see her.
That's awesome. Anyone like what's the next up? If not, I have a question.
Oh, please.
I have a question. I just know if it was in the rotation or that Leo was aware that he's wearing a Goonies shirt on the day that I'm on your show.
It was the first shirt that was like on. Yeah,
okay.
I grabbed it.
That's fine. I'm not. I figured somewhere that Leo would mess it. So I don't know how. But we found it. No, I'm just.
I had a Cobra Kai shirt on. I changed.
I'm just kidding. The Goonies are great. The Goonies are great, and Goonies have great fans. I mean, the Goonies were great at saving the neighborhood from being a golf course. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they saved the world or anything. There weren't any monsters.
It's like the Pizza Brothers and an architect. I mean, that's really what but it's a fun movie, great movie.
I mean,
Love the Goonies.
He drew on the guy's overcoat with a pen. I mean, that's the same as killing a werewolf. Yeah, So
I jest because everybody thinks that like there's this giant Monster Squad and Goonies rivalry, and I mean there really isn't because they're very different movies. There's some similarities, but I mean the Goonies was a giant hit, and Monster Squad was a giant tank. And so there's no real comparison in the films, but everybody likes to give us like to stoke that fire. But
I totally disagree. I think that and what we've seen in the comments, people are saying that Goonies can't touch Monster Squad. I think the Goonies and the Monster Squad are very, very similar films in that it's the same group of kids, but the Monster Squad has the universal monsters that they have to contend with, as opposed to greedy real estate developer. And you guys did not humiliate your hefty friend and make him dance before he could come into the house.
That is correct.
No truffle shuffle for Horan.
No. Although he did have a candy bar, but I think that's endearing, and it was product placement. Yeah. But
Twinkie, yeah, look, Twinkie, I mean, got paid.
Totally different movies. A lot of Goonies fans are Monster Squad fans, and vice versa. So there's no kind of moat and castle wall where we won't let you in. Look, I auditioned for the Goonies. I wish I had gotten the movie because everybody loves the Goonies. They never say die, and how great is that? But yeah,
I mean,
we saved the world.
It's not like you're gonna run into Corey Feldman. You guys are just gonna like stare at each other from across the room and just start throwing hands, like that scene in Airplane.
You never know. You never know, though.
No, but that would be fun.
Yeah.
That was actually, back in the day when, we had film festivals and everything, probably arguably the best film festival in the country is Fantastic Fest, which is, run by Alamo Drafthouse in Austin, Texas. And they have this great event called the Fantastic Debates. And the debates, you're actually on stage and debating a topic, and it's usually one movie or filmmaker against the other. And I actually did it once with someone, Goonies versus Monster Squad, and they asked me to represent Monster Squad. But what you do is you debate the topic and then you box for 2 rounds. So you actually get to box. So it's an outrageous event. And someone brought up the idea that they wanted Ryan Lambert and myself to debate Feldman and like Sean Astin or Ki Hu Kwan or something, and then box and then do a tag team boxing match. And I was like, if we're doing that, then we got to charge $100 a ticket because
yes,
I would pay $100 to see that.
Yeah.
Shit, I'll think.
Then I think we would all just start like, hugging each other and going and having a beer after or something. If you're like, how crazy was this? But hopefully we get to do that maybe one day when we have festivals again.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
So we definitely gotta, we'd love to have you back when the documentary is about to come out, whenever you're ready to start pushing that. And very excited to hear that, you definitely have a different deal in the works. So, matter of fact, one of the guys on the network was bugging me about the documentary.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw.
It's coming soon. Please follow me on my socials or at the Squad Doc. Announcements are pending. I promise. We had a delay in another deal that ended up falling through. So it was a delay that we didn't want and didn't need, but we're remedying that as we speak.
Awesome.
I got to add to that comment that's up on the screen right there. Nothing in this world will ever top Dracula blowing up a kid's treehouse with dynamite. And the line he says as he walks away, meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
That's one of the best scenes in the movie because Dracula's he ain't messing around. I mean, he really isn't messing around. He thinks we're in there. He just went and blew up like 6 little kids because we were in his way. Because he's been walking around for 100 years waiting for this night, and he doesn't care who's, an obstacle. We're not, nothing's getting in his way. So he's got to eliminate one of the obstacles, and he thinks we're in there. And that's just a badass scene, I think.
Yeah.
And that's such a Shane Black line, too.
Oh, no doubt. That, the fact that, just the thought of writing on a page, Dracula blows up the treehouse thinking the kids read it. That's
full
insane.
of kids. Yeah, full of kids.
Oh yeah, so good. I'm gonna have to watch that again.
Yeah, my kids love the Monster Squad.
I have the VHS, the Blu-ray, the DVD.
No laser disc.
I only have one laser disc, and it was a gift given to me because I never had a laser disc player.
Do you have the UK laser disc or the Japanese laser disc?
I don't have the only one I have is Silence of the Lambs. I don't have.
Oh, that's the only laser disc. Got it.
Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, there were 2 laser disc releases of Monster Squad, I think, and the Japanese one is the only one that was widescreen.
Oh,
so the VHS and the HBO and all that stuff, no one had seen that movie in actual widescreen until we did that screening on 35 millimeter at the Alamo Drafthouse in 06. And a lot of people had never seen the movie presented that way, and they saw a lot of photography that they missed, for 20 years.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's crazy.
There's definitely some things that are missing in bottom corners of a lot of shots that people missed for 20 years that they see and go, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Oh my God, there was another kid in the Monster Squad. What the hell?
That's right.
It's like
That's right.
Thing getting cut
That's
out of Ghostbusters.
I've got Pete the dog yapping right here. Hold on one second. Well, not. Right. I'm going to get that dog. Watch this.
Yeah, go get him. Right. Yeah, I thought he was going to come back with the dog because I think.
I thought that the deal was. But that does bring me to one final question, so I got to wait till he comes back.
Okay, and then we'll do the rounds.
Yeah, because it's going longer than we usually do.
This has been awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm having an absolute blast tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm back. I had to remedy the yapping little dog, so that's all right.
So the last question I have, and I don't, unless you answer it in the documentary and you don't want to give it away, how did the dog get up into the treehouse?
We don't answer that in the documentary, but so I can talk about it now. We actually shot some footage of how that happens, and what it was is we put Pete in a dumbwaiter.
Nice.
So we had a pulley system and a rope, and we put him in a box, and we pulled him up there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you. I again, that's a question that never gets answered.
Yeah.
Rudy asks and nobody says anything.
Yeah. And I think it's a total homage to, I can't remember which Bond movie it is, but it's the one which one is it? He's climbing up the face of the mountain to the castle, and he gets up there, and there's a dumbwaiter, and that's how he gets up into the next level. And I think Fred stole that from that Bond movie because he's a big Bond guy.
I mean, if you're gonna pay homage to something, like there's worse things to pay homage to.
This is true. This is true.
You don't like James Bond?
Who?
Patrick.
I'm just saying, like, there's worse. Like, James Bond is a good.
All right.
There's so much source material like that. There's worse things you could rip off.
I agree. I'm a Bond fan. I saw Octopussy in the Drive-In. See, full circle. We came all the way around right to the.
Exactly the way we wrote it out in the script.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I definitely want to urge you to check out Baby Frankenstein, and also, pop in Monster Squad, give it another watch. But check out the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. And you'll find a bunch of information about Andre. And also go follow him so that you can definitely check out more information about the doc when it comes out. And so where do you interact with your fans the most? Or
mostly on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is at Andre Gower, and Instagram is Andre Gower Official. So please join up there, hit me up, send me a story, send me a hello or a wave, and I'll try to answer back as much as I can. Shameless plug. I'm also, a lot of Monster fans love the fact that I'm on Cameo. Ryan Lambert and I are both on Cameo app, so you can, especially in this time where we can't go to conventions, there's a you can log in and order up a little shout out and birthday wish, or give a line out to someone that's needs a little boost during the day. So we enjoy doing those. So hit me up on Cameo as well. But Instagram, Twitter, same thing with the documentary at the Squad Doc. Please go follow Baby Frankenstein and the filmmakers and everybody that had a hand in that and support the other things that they're doing. Because I think this release of something like Baby Frankenstein really is that kind of celebration and support of not only, that enthusiasm that filmmakers have and want to get things out there, but also for, indie filmmaking and local filmmaking. And, some of the gems that are out there are not made in Hollywood. Most of the stuff made in Hollywood is terrible. It's all the stuff that has heart and that you really want to find out, and those little hidden gems, can end up being something like Baby Frankenstein. And, support John and, support my production friends, TJ and Denise, and, everybody that had a hand in that. And what I like to do with something small or unknown like Baby Frankenstein is look at the people, even the cast members like Patrick McCartney, or anybody else in there, or myself, and then you go and research them, or research the cinematographer of this movie and what else did he work on? Can I go see that? And that's a great way to use social media and the interwebs, to kind of branch out and find out and have access to things that you never might come across on your own. So, start looking behind the surface on things, and you'll end up seeing a lot of cool stuff out there. And, support the actors and support the filmmakers and the production people, because they're the ones that, the engine that makes things go like this. And it's only because of fans and people that rent these movies on VOD and, buy the Blu-rays and go to the festivals that, we get to do what we enjoy doing. And hopefully we get to do more of it for you.
Can't agree more. Indie movies are where it's at.
Legit.
Totally.
Exactly what this show is all about.
Yeah. So, Angel, where do you like people following you guys?
You can follow me, Mandy, and Ryan at That Strange Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Since all the COVID-19 stuff, the schedule's been kind of off, but we usually try to keep to a weekly schedule of releasing stuff. But you can catch us on there, and we're available everywhere, and also on the Dorkening Podcast Network.
Okay. Patrick.
Easiest place for following my amazing co-host on the show, my co-host in life, my wife, Ashes Von Nightmare, and myself. ThrowdownThursdayPodcast.com. You'll have all our latest articles, our latest episodes, not just of Throwdown Thursday, but also Shark Bites. We have movie reviews, film reviews, and I'm going to kind of tease a little something that Leo and I were going to be doing something huge on Friday. There is a movie that is dropping. They're not till 2022, but their Indiegogo campaign is starting on Friday, and we are going to be doing a live broadcast right here. And we are going to have some amazing guests on, and we are very excited. And yeah, so look for stuff there. You can also find me writing for womeninhorror.net, as well as a variety of other places. You can check out my author page on Amazon, which I really don't ever plug enough.
Busy.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And I do want to just quickly say, Andre, I just followed you on all your socials. And the first thing I see on Instagram is your awesome post of Monsters Are Against Racism from our good friends at Monsters Are Good, my good buddy Sam First, who runs that site. I've got a bunch of those shirts. They are super awesome. And check out the Monsters Are Against Racism shirt as well.
He gave me one of my favorite T-shirts, years ago that I still wear. It's the Frankenstein with the crossed lightning bolts shirt.
I have that one.
And not only is that a badass shirt, but it also glows in the dark, and so it's super bitchin'. And I don't know if they have seen the doc at a festival when we rolled through or not, but they're going to be happy to see it, because that shirt is seen in the doc 3 or 4 times.
That's awesome. I have the Frankenberry one that he did, that same design, but it's Frankenberry with the 2 spoons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's my favorite shirt. Vendors, and I get to meet cool people like Sam and all those guys all over the place, and everybody wants to give me something. And I always demand that we trade something. So I'll go sign a picture or take a picture with him or something. But I try not to collect too much stuff. But he's like, pick a T-shirt, and I was like, that one.
Yep. It's amazing. Yeah, they make great stuff, and I'm very happy to see you supporting him.
Yeah, no, it's they've always been very nice to me and cool. And then, I try not to get too involved online with politics and stuff going on, but I'll put something up there like that if it's supporting a cool group or a cool brand that is also supporting something that's worthwhile. So I don't mind doing that, but I don't get too involved with stuff. But that was a rad shirt. I wanted to give them a little shout out and a little signal boost if I could.
Awesome.
Nice. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but more importantly, head on over to thedorkening.com, which you'll find all the shows on the network. We got about 30 shows on the network right now, which is absolutely insane. Especially when you guys add new shows. I mean, I have to go in and do all the updates. So it's like,
I only do the one.
yeah,
I know. I've got 3.
Yeah, I only do the one, barely.
a lot of awesome stuff. Definitely, check out That Strange Show. Check out Shark Bites and Throwdown Thursday, and a lot of other awesome shows, including this one. Also, Wicked Horror Show tomorrow. Also, that Still Token is coming back this Wednesday. That's going to be a fun show as well. But I want to thank you all for watching. Definitely check out Baby Frankenstein and
Yes.
go follow Andre and support the doc when it comes out. And we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Later.